Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now the Bitcoin price is testing this very important level of support. And when you zoom out to the weekly Bitcoin chart, the MACD is forming something very interesting that we need to be paying attention to. So I'll be covering all of that and more later in the video. But first, let's take a quick look at this 2-hour Bitcoin chart, and we still technically have this bullish divergence forming. And in fact, what I said in my last Bitcoin update video that I posted just yesterday, I said at this point right here that it's very likely we're going to see mostly sideways price action in the short term. And if you're looking at where Bitcoin is today, at least at the time of recording this video, we are currently at the same price as we were yesterday, which should not really be surprising for those of you that watched my last Bitcoin update video. Now, because this is only really visible on the 2-hour time frame, it isn't exactly significant for larger time frames. So as of right now, in the immediate short term, I do expect some more sideways price action of some sort, unless this uptrend in the RSI can start flowing over to some larger time frames like the 4-hour chart and possibly the 12-hour time frame as well. Because what we are seeing right now on the 12-hour Bitcoin chart is technically still these bearish signals that I've been talking about for around 4 to 5 days now. So technically speaking, on the 12-hour Bitcoin chart, we are looking more bearish than we are bullish. But of course, that will not stay like that forever, and I will be letting you know as soon as we start flipping bullish again. But right now, that isn't the case, at least just yet. And taking a quick look in the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, which is still sitting in extreme fear for another day. And in case you are new to the channel, pretty much every significant Bitcoin bottom occurs while the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index is sitting in extreme fear. But also, it is worth mentioning that not every single day that we're in extreme fear means that we're at the Bitcoin bottom. But what we have right here is years worth of Bitcoin price action, and the color dots are representing what the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index was doing on that day, and the darker red dots are when we were in extreme fear. And I want to make it clear that this is not financial advice, but if you're simply taking a look at the times we were sitting in extreme fear, if you're dollar cost averaging during those previous times, they turned out to be great buying opportunities if you're holding for the longer term. But then if you're looking at the times where the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index was sitting in extreme greed, which is the darker green, those times can usually be some pretty good opportunities to take some profits off the table. And if you're looking at what Bitcoin has done here on the daily time frame over the past 2 months, we've basically just stayed in some sort of sideways consolidation in between this strong resistance at around 45,000 and this upward trending line of support coming in at around 37 to 38,000. But obviously that is only going off the daily candle closes. If you're going from the candle wicks, then we have this line of support coming in at around 35,000. And so considering the fact that the Bitcoin price is technically converging in on itself, soon enough, Bitcoin will need to decide whether we're breaking resistance or breaking support. And clearly a break of support would be bearish and a break of resistance would be bullish. And while we're waiting for either a break above resistance or a break below support, honestly, this consolidation range is proving to be an amazing trading opportunity. For those of you that have been watching my videos for even just a month now, you'll know that right around here, I started flipping somewhat bearish in the shorter term, and then I started flipping more bullish right around here, just in the shorter term, and then I started flipping more bearish again around 4 to 5 days ago, just in the shorter term. So these shorter term swings in the market have been great opportunities to trade once again. But if you're wanting to know the next major direction Bitcoin will take, we really need to wait for either a break below support or above resistance, as I just mentioned. But when you're zooming out to the weekly Bitcoin chart, we are seeing something very interesting form in the weekly Bitcoin MACD right now. First of all, let's go back and take a look at Bitcoin's history. This right here is the 2014 Bitcoin bear market. And basically, the Bitcoin price stayed in this larger downtrend for just over a year before we started flipping bullish later on. And one of the major signals on the Bitcoin weekly chart that helped predict a larger bullish reversal was seeing higher lows in the Bitcoin MACD on the weekly time frame. And you can see here that throughout that 2014 bear market, we saw 3 lows in the weekly Bitcoin MACD before we started flipping much more bullish again. And now taking a look at the 2018 Bitcoin bear market, we saw a very similar thing form in the weekly MACD, where we saw maximum bearish momentum towards the beginning of that bear market, and then we saw higher lows form in the weekly MACD. And if you're counting this right here as a low, then we also saw 3 lows, just like the 2014 bear market, before we finally started to see a much larger bullish reversal in the Bitcoin price. And now taking a look at late 2019 and early 2020, which wasn't exactly a bear market. If anything, it was mostly a sideways market. And to be completely honest, the Bitcoin market over the past 1 year is probably most similar to what we saw at the end of 2019 and early 2020, just that more sideways market rather than a clear bull or bear market, because clearly this right here was not a bull or a bear market, kind of like the last 1 year in Bitcoin. But if you're looking in the Bitcoin weekly MACD, during that time period, we saw 3 higher lows form before we started to flip much more bullish again. And now taking a look at the Bitcoin price in the current day and you can clearly see that we are forming something very similar in the weekly MACD. So far, we have already formed a higher low structure, but we are possibly in for one more swing to the downside according to history. But keep in mind, just because something played out in the past, it does not 100% guarantee it's going to happen the exact same again in the future. So the weekly Bitcoin MACD very well could come back down for another low, or it is a possibility that only just two lows could form here and we start the swing to the upside within the next few months. Because if you're looking back at that previous example at the end of 2019 and early 2020, we only saw that third low in the chart due to that black swan event that happened during March 2020 that saw the entire stock market crash. So if it wasn't for the events happening in the world at that stage right there, we might not have seen that third low. And then going back to the 2018 bear market example, you might not even count that right there as another low, which means we only saw two significant lows in the weekly MACD during that bear market before the swing back to the upside. But either way, whether we see just two lows or three or even four lows, just as long as we are forming higher lows in the weekly MACD, that is what is important. Because if the weekly MACD breaks this higher low structure into a new lower low, then that means the bearish momentum is increasing, and clearly that would not be a good signal for Bitcoin on the larger timeframes. But for now, while we're seeing this higher low structure form in the weekly MACD, according to many years of Bitcoin history, technically speaking, this is pointing towards a much larger reversal in the Bitcoin price on the much larger timeframes. But I want to make this extra clear for the complete beginners out there. This is talking about the weekly chart. Each one of these candles is an entire week, so this is not talking about the day-to-day Bitcoin price action. And if you're taking a look at the percentage of Bitcoin short positions on the Binance exchange and the Bybit exchange, roughly about 1 month ago, the short positions on these two major exchanges relative to long positions were peaking at record highs. And what we have seen since then, so over the past 1 month approximately, these Bitcoin short positions have been slowly decreasing relative to Bitcoin long positions. And if this trend continues, technically speaking, that is bullish for the Bitcoin price, because you can clearly see right here that I've circled all of the other time periods where we saw a massive amount of Bitcoin short positions, and pretty much every single time that we saw these short positions spike to the upside, that turned out to be a great buying opportunity, especially for the longer term. But in case you haven't noticed already, the most bullish Bitcoin price action that we saw happened during a major downtrend in the percentage of Bitcoin short positions. And then it was only when the Bitcoin short positions were at these record low levels, they were the best times to take some profits off the table. And clearly right now, especially over on Bybit, we are very far away from those record low levels, which is presenting an amazing opportunity for the longer term Bitcoin holders according to history. And now giving you a quick update on the US stock market today over in the S&P 500 index on the daily time frame. So far today has been a red day, and if we see a daily candle close below this importance level of support at around 4290, then clearly that would not be a good sign. But we still have this lower level of support coming in at around 4220 approximately. And aside from that, the S&P 500 index on the daily time frame technically still has this bullish divergence in play. But if the daily RSI starts breaking into a new lower low, then that would essentially cancel out that bullish divergence. And as of right now, at the time of recording this video, that is simply not the case. But I want to make it clear that here on the daily time frame, technically speaking, we are still in a downtrend. We have not seen any form of reversal just yet. And all you need to do to confirm this is by looking at the highs and the lows, and clearly we are forming lower highs and lower lows. So until we start seeing some higher highs and higher lows on the daily chart in both the price and the RSI preferably, we are still technically remaining somewhat bearish, at least in the shorter term, until we start seeing some of those more bullish signals later on. But anyway, if you found this video useful, make sure to leave a like down below. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on for more updates just like this every single day. And before we click off, make sure you're checking out one of these two videos popping up right here, because both of these videos can help you make more money in crypto. But anyway, that is it for this update. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.